Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to write code to keep a track of the users on our server side. So we're going to track all the users who are connected to our app. Inside the util server folder, I'm going to create a new file, room actions.js. And inside here, first of all, let's create an array, users. It is going to be empty array. And we're going to create a function, add user, async. And inside this function, we are going to receive a user ID and the socket ID. And first of all, we are going to check if we have a user already connected with this user ID. So const user users dot find user and user dot user ID is equals to user ID which we are sending inside the parameters. And we are going to check if user and user dot socket ID is equals to socket ID which we are sending inside the parameters. We are just going to return from this function and return the users. Else inside this we are again going to check if user, but this time we're going to check if user dot socket ID not equals to socket ID. So user dot socket ID not equals to socket ID which we are sending inside the parameters. We are going to remove this user first. So we're going to create a function for this, await remove user, and we are going to pass in the socket ID here. So user dot socket ID. After this function is called, we are going to create a new user. It is going to be user ID and socket ID. So again the ES6 syntax here. And we are going to push this new user inside this users array. So users dot push new user, and we're going to return the users again. So now let's create this remove user. Const remove user. Inside this, first of all, we have to find the index to remove the item from the array. So const index of users dot map user dot socket ID, and we have to find its index socket ID, and we are going to splice it out. So users dot splice index of and 1, and just we are going to return from here. So now let's export both of these functions. Module dot exports add user and remove user. So now inside this add user, first of all we are checking if there is a user inside a users array. That means the user is connected already. Then we are checking if user.socket ID is equals to socket ID which we are passing inside this. In that case, we are just going to return from this function and return the users. Else, I'm just going to add a comment here to reformat it. Else, we are checking if user is there, but this time we are checking if its socket ID is not equals to socket ID. We are just going to remove the user completely from a users array, and then we are going to create this new user and push it into the users array. So now let's import these functions inside our server.js. On our messages page from our front end, what I'm going to do is remove these two events which we created in the last video. And if socket.current, we are going to emit an event socket.current.emit join. And inside this, we are going to send in the user ID of the user._ID. So from the user state, logged in user state. And we are going to listen for this event on our server. So here I'm going to remove this hello world and socket.on join, and the second argument is the function. Inside this we are going to receive the user ID, and inside this function we are going to call the add user function, and we are going to pass in the user ID. We are receiving it inside the data for the socket. And for the socket ID, it is going to be socket.id. So this ID is generated by socket IO by itself, and it is regenerated at every connection. It will be unique for every connection. And we are returning users from this function. And let's make it an async function. So after we have listened for this event, join, we are calling this add user function, and we are going to send back some data from the server. So I'm going to set an interval here, and it is going to be after every 10 seconds. And inside this, we are going to send data from our server to the client. So socket.emit, it is going to be connected users. And inside an object, we are going to pass in the users, but we are going to filter over it. So users.filter user and user.user ID not equals to user ID. So we are sending back all the users other than the logged in user who has made this connection, and save. And we are going to listen for this event on our front end. So I'm going to copy this connected users, and inside this socket.current check, we are going to listen for this socket.current.on connected users. And inside this, the second argument is a function. We are going to decrypt out the users, and we are going to create a state here, const connected users, set connected users. Use state is going to be empty array. So inside this, we are going to check if users.length is greater than 0. We are going to call the set connected users function and set it to users which we are receiving inside this data right here. So we're going to use this state to check if a user is online or not. First of all, we are emitting on the mount. When the component mounts, we are emitting this event join, and we are listening for this event on our server right here on join, and we are sending in the user ID alongside this. So inside an object, and we are destructuring it out here, and then we are calling this add user function, and from this add user function, we are returning all the users. So all the users which will connect to our app will be inside this users array. And after this, we are setting an interval after every 10 seconds to emit this event and send the users, and we are filtering out the users to send the user other than the user who is logged in. So other than the user whose user ID is not equals to user ID, which we are sending inside this data right here. And we are listening for this event on our client side. So socket.current.on connected users, we are sending in the users alongside it, and we are checking if users.length is greater than 0, and we are calling this set connected users function, passing in the users. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how we are going to set up the layout to show that a user is online. So I will see you there.